Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the AskDrKurt podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about thyroid, and I love talking about the thyroid. It is one of the main reasons I got into doing functional medicine, into lifestyle medicine, and it's something almost every single person out there can at least improve. Many people do have hypothyroid, and it's, I would say, probably the most underdiagnosed. Maybe diagnosed is a harsh word. Maybe it's one of the few things many people don't quite understand, especially mainstream doctors. How many of you out there watching this have heard your thyroid looks great, it's normal, it's good? While while you went to the doctor because you didn't feel very good, you're sluggish, you're maybe a little overweight, feeling kind of bloated and puffy, but yet they tell you everything's fine. And how did they get to that number? I can't believe you the number of times people have told me their thyroid's perfect. Their doctor said their thyroid's perfect. And the only number on their blood work that would indicate anything about the thyroid was TSH, which is a brain signal to your thyroid, part of the thyroid system, but not a very accurate number in terms of thyroid function. In fact, it doesn't tell you anything about thyroid hormones. So it's an odd thing, and we're going to really break this all down because we're having an epidemic out there of low thyroid function. So as a disclaimer, I do have a few patients that have hyperthyroid or high T4 or different aspects of too much thyroid hormone in different areas. Sorry, this is not the podcast for you. Otherwise, I could put one out there. Maybe we'll have to kind of touch on those people in the future. We'll add it to our series. But this one is for hypothyroid. Today is our lifestyle podcast. We're going to have a series of 4 to start with. Today, we're going to touch on what does hypothyroid look like and what are some practical things you can start tomorrow to start improving thyroid function. What are the lifestyle pieces of thyroid function, some habits you can do to really improve your thyroid function. Podcast 2 is going to be our lab value section or podcast. That one's going to be, I think, revolutionary because we're going to break down the values and all the different tests you need to get a minimum look at the thyroid and how the thyroid itself is working. That's not even so much covering all the labs in the full environment of the body because, as we know, thyroid hormone is a nuclear hormone. That means every single cell in your body uses thyroid hormone, making it a huge body environment hormone. So that's actually the topic of our 4th podcast in the series is the body environment. We're going to touch on all the different systems, all the different areas of the body that are impacted by thyroid hormone and conversely are needed to be in optimal function for thyroid hormone to work properly. The middle, our podcast number 3, is going to be on iodine and the soul-body connection with iodine. Iodine is very, very interesting. That's why we're dedicating an entire podcast, maybe more, to that specific mineral and yet kind of interesting element that's in the body. All right. So what does hypothyroid look like? Hypothyroid looks like puffiness. If anyone out there is watching this and say, gosh, I've been feeling puffy, your face is puffy, your eyes are puffy, your chin, your jowl area is puffy, your calves are puffy, your arms are puffy, your belly's puffy, your skin in general, the whole body feels puffy, that's hypothyroid. People that don't have hypothyroidism or low thyroid function or whatever you want to call it, low energy, the whole system itself being a little sluggish, they're not puffy. So puffiness across the entire body is the number one thing you want to look for when you look in the mirror for hypothyroid. So biggest one, a lot of people know about the eyes, that puffiness under the eyes that so many people feel, or, at least what everyone feels after they have a heavy night of drinking. You'll wake up and your eyes are puffy and you can see the puffiness. That's a big hypothyroid issue. I know sometimes that is runs in my family, a little bit. I have a little bit of puffy eyes. I'm not sure if you can see it in the video. But yeah, a lot of times, I err on that side of hypothyroidism. That's part of the reason why it's such a passion of mine. But look, Look for face puffiness, cheek puffiness, the jowl underneath the chin, this area being puffy. And part of the reason hypothyroid, when the thyroid isn't optimally functioning, you get a little puffy, is thyroid is responsible for cleaning out old cellular debris. So you're literally in need of detox when you're puffy from low thyroid. Let's make sure. Hair. You can see your hair, for a better word, is lackluster. It's not shiny. It doesn't look that healthy. It looks a little dry. It looks a little brittle. And there is something called trophic hair loss, where if you've been losing hair in kind of random places on the head, or you notice different areas kind of thinning, that can be an indication of low thyroid as well. And the classic, if the lateral 1/3 of your eyebrows are very thin, or in a lot of cases nowadays non-existent, then that's a classic sign, at least at some point in your life you were hypothyroid and you lost that hair. I've noticed as we correct people's thyroid, it doesn't seem like many people regrow their eyebrows. So it's that one gets a little tricky because it could be a period of your life. But if it's gone, that means you're definitely on the spectrum of low thyroid. And pale skin. When your body's not invigorated with thyroid hormone, your skin's going to be pale. And part of that could be blood flow and temperature and different things like that. But you don't look as healthy and vibrant as you could be. Another thing that people notice, you may not see, but you can feel, is neck issues. Issues swallowing, tightness in the front of the neck pain. The thyroid is located in your neck. So in terms of structural issues, chiropractic type style issues, your neck is probably off and probably requires some soft tissue work and some chiropractic work to help the thyroid function a little bit better, or at least help that system in that area of the body feel a little bit smoother. Rounded back. A lot of people have heard of this. I think it's called Dowinger's hump. Might be saying that wrong, but there's the upper back can get a little bit of a curve to it, and that can get really, really stiff. And over time, it can even, have bony changes. But kind of that hunch posture, which then includes forward head posture, can all be a part of it. And one thing a lot of people don't realize or think about is flat feet. Flat feet are an indication of low thyroid, whether it developmentally or if flat feet kind of came or got worse over time. Definitely a major part of that association. You can think flat feet lead to knock knees, rounded back, forward head posture. There's a lot of different posture-related things associated with that. They're all hormonally related to the thyroid. How many of you have what they call follicular keratosis? This is the bumps, the little red inflamed bumps on the back of the arms or the thighs or the calves or different areas of your body. That, weirdly enough, is related to the thyroid. It's also related to a few other things. Specifically, in this case, it's more of a vitamin A style deficiency that seems to be directly related with thyroid. I know it's been linked to omega-3s and gluten potentially and different things, but the bumpy skin, odds are, I could say I don't think we found a client that has bumpy skin and didn't have at least something associated with the thyroid going on. Thick calves. Now this kind of does fall in line with that vitamin A deficiency associated thyroid issues, but if you have thick calves, and what I mean by thick calf is not big calves, is if you pinch the calf itself and it's, an inch thick or bigger and it kind of feels puffy, you'll kind of know, because otherwise the calf should be really thin if you pinch it with the skin. Many of you know I do skin fold pinches in the office. We do measure different sites on the body, the calf being one of them. And your skin should be pretty thin in the calf. So if that's a thick pinch, when you pinch it, it'll feel kind of puffy. That's a definite indication of thyroid issues. Cold hands. I guess what we could see would be blue hands, blue or white hands. And that's a blood flow thing. As we know, temperature is definitely associated with thyroid function, which we're going to cover that a little bit in podcast number 2 when we go over the lab values and different testing techniques, because that'll be a testable thing. We have nails, brittle and splitting nails, weak nails. That one does have some mineral associations to it, which we're going to cover. And I think that one's in podcast number 4, where we look at the body environment, but it also, the hormone associated with that would be the thyroid hormone. And the overall theme of what it looks like is, I want you to remember puffiness. Puffy. Your cheeks, your face, your eyes specifically, your jowl, your arms, your belly, your overall just total body having a layer of puff, your calves. So if you feel puffy, more puffy, I mean, really no one should feel puffy all the time. But if you've been feeling puffy for maybe years or your whole life, that's a definite sign we need to look at your thyroid, and we need to go deep. We need to look at the full thyroid. We're going to, really get that optimized in a lot of different ways. So just making sure we covered all of our stuff. So now we're going to touch on what does it really feel like to have hypothyroid, because it's kind of a specific, when I mean by feel, I mean energy-wise. And then we're going to go into what can you start doing today to start improving thyroid function. So hypothyroid feels like sluggishness in the morning, all the way to, we have clients that can barely get out of bed sometimes in the morning before about 10 a.m. So the waking time, which we'd say on average, let's say it's 7 a.m. for most people, could be a little earlier, could be a little later, really shouldn't be too much later. Otherwise that's a, kind of a hypothyroid issue, is sleeping in, but not really feeling good or having good brain function or energy until after about 10 or 11. That morning slot is thyroid hormone related. So if you wake up puffy, you wake up depressed, because think if you don't have enough energy, that's a depressing state. Your brain isn't on. Your brain doesn't fire till later in the day or afternoon. If you're a night owl, that's a classic indication of low thyroid, because think thyroid's highest in the morning, lowest at night. Well, if you start kicking on in the evening, that means that's when your body is finally coming into its hormone balance. After you ran out, when your thyroid hormone should be low in the evening, that's if you feel your best, then think now that's when your body is feeling its best, but that's because you were deficient in hormones all day long. And now your body's entering the period of the day where it has sufficient hormones and you feel good. So if you're not feeling good during the day and or you're a night owl or feel your best at night, classic indications of low thyroid. And the big thing that a lot of people don't want to change, this is one of the harder things, is caffeine. If you wake up and immediately need coffee, that's a hypothyroid. Could be a hypothyroid problem, because you're definitely looking to stimulate in the morning. Well, what does thyroid hormone do? It wakes your body up, it gets it going. Caffeine, will spark a little bit of adrenaline, get the cortisol system going, but you're making up with caffeine by, from not having enough thyroid hormone. So the other part of this would be bad sleep. If you have sleep apnea, you snore, you toss and turn, you're waking up many times during the night, you are not recharging, and therefore your thyroid is not turning on as well. We've learned over time you need to get good, effective sleep in order for the thyroid to work. And I always use the analogy, it's something like if you never shut your car off, you have a gas-powered car, you just leave it running constantly idling. You never shut it off. How long is that car going to run? Is it going to have full power? Is the engine going to be nice? How is it going to wear over time? That engine going to wear over time? That's your body. If your body never shuts off, you never have the ability to turn that key off and sleep, the engine's going to wear out, the engine being your body. So that thyroid hormone is going to burn out. So we really need to focus on really high quality sleep. And if you have a low thyroid and that energy is low, we need to focus on even more sleep, which can be tough, in that circumstance. So what are some lifestyle factors you can do today to begin to help the thyroid function? Well, we have to remember circadian rhythm is a big, big part of the body, and thyroid hormone is no different. Thyroid hormone functions on a circadian rhythm, so waking up at the same time will be a huge, huge player. Getting adequate sleep, which a lot of times we have to help people get more sleep. We have to really help them recover that thyroid. When we start getting people to go. So going to bed earlier, using melatonin. We'll have a sleep podcast come out where we really dive into sleep strategies. But with low thyroid, that low energy, we definitely need to focus on sleep. And when we wake up, which can be the hardest part of the day, we need to focus on getting sunlight almost immediately. So I know we're fairly far north. I'm from Minnesota. It gets, we're up here, especially this time of year in the winter, we're not getting a lot of sunlight. So in extreme cases, we have people get a sun lamp. So when they wake up, they flip it on, shine it on your face, shine it on, in your eyes. I mean, don't look directly into the light. Close your eyes sometimes. If you have the ability to look at the sun a little bit in the morning, if it's not too bright, kind of look at the sun. Use the eyes to wake up the energy centers in the body. Shine some light on your chest. Get your skin and get that light into your body. You can think light's become very popular. We have lasers. We have the red light therapy and things. So light is very, very powerful for the body. And waking up and using light to stimulate the wake cycles in your body is going to be a huge, huge thing. And breath. We want people to breathe in the morning. And I know a lot of people try to meditate in the morning when they wake up, which is great. We found that some people, when the thyroid's a little sluggish, going into a slow body, going into that meditative state, sometimes doesn't help their thyroid. So we have people, personally, I do like to do the Wim Hof style breathing in the morning. It really kind of jolts the body awake. I take a little bit of supplements in the morning, usually associated with thyroid. I do a little bit of salt water, and I do Wim Hof, and that's my first 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in the morning. And it really kind of gets the body revved up and woke. So that's the big theme of waking up, is we want to stimulate the body to get it moving. Food. The thyroid responds to calories and frequency of meals. So intermittent fasting a lot of times is the worst diet, maybe not the worst. It's not the right diet for hypothyroid people. We want to wake up, we want to breathe, we want to do our morning kind of stimulation routine to get the body moving and warmed up, but then we want to eat. And a lot of times I have people, years ago I wrote a thing called the farmer's breakfast. It's basically a high protein, high fat breakfast. It kind of helps the brain, gets the body going. We want to eat food that's going to set us up for the day. And we want to do that right away in the morning, I usually say within 30 minutes, but definitely within 60 minutes of waking up. And the hard part of this is we want to do this before coffee. Remember, caffeine is kind of a substitute for low thyroid. So we want to start feeding the body, stimulating the thyroid with food before we stimulate adrenaline and cortisol with caffeine. Water. Because remember, what's the most common physical feature of hypothyroid? Puffiness. Well, we got to drink enough water to start getting rid of that puffiness. So 3 liters minimum. I have people shoot for a gallon, and that's a gallon of flat, clean, filtered water. Seltzer is always a question. I say seltzer doesn't count towards your water intake. If it has flavoring, doesn't count towards the water intake. Teas don't count towards the water intake. Coffee 100% doesn't count towards the water intake. So I always play the rule, or you kind of give people the option. I don't care what else you drink. I mean, we definitely don't promote any sugary style beverages. But if you want to have a seltzer, have a seltzer. Drink your flat water. Get the flat water in the body. And we kind of touched on this a little bit with food, but calories. We have to eat enough calories to stimulate the thyroid. If we're under eating calories, our thyroid is understimulated. So I want you to think every time you eat, you're boosting the thyroid. You're feeding the thyroid. So we got to feed the thyroid. And sometimes we have to feed it maybe many small times. But this is where we need to get adequate protein. A lot of people are under eating protein. So we do focus on diet. And the biggest part of the diet is starting the food intake early, starting it within that first 60 minutes before coffee, after, lots of water and kind of breathing and getting the body woken up in the morning. Another thing we can do is working out in the morning. We can use that to our advantage to start stimulating the thyroid to work. The thing here we have to worry about is a lot of people burn out, and it's really, really hard to start an exercise program when you're burned out, and most people overdo it. They think they need to get an hour or they need to exhaust themselves. This one I usually recommend people hire a trainer, go work out in the morning, and do it without burning yourself out, because that'll be the tricky part of working out in the morning when your thyroid is sluggish, or after many years of your thyroid being sluggish. That's a hard piece, and we don't want to burn out. We don't want to burn your body out in the first hour of the day. We just want to use a little bit of exercise to stimulate it. So that one is a touchier one, and on an as-case basis. But I think a lot of people will feel a lot better from working out in the morning versus working out at night. In terms of energy throughout the day. So working out at night, you'll feel great. but it's not going to help your daytime energy. So working out in the morning is definitely a great strategy. It may be one where you have to start really slow, maybe even do 10 minutes a day in the morning versus, a full hour, and really avoid over exhaustion. If you want to do sprints and those hit and really hit it, that might be better to do in the afternoon after a little warm-up workout in the morning. And this one, not very controversial, but not well liked. No alcohol. Alcohol 100% disrupts your sleep, makes your sleep terrible, which then will in turn impact your thyroid, as we learned how sleep is pivotally important for the thyroid working properly. And with these few things, your thyroid's going to start working better. You're going to start stimulating it to work better. So I kind of equate these lifestyle strategies just like working out. The more you do it, the better it becomes a habit, the stronger you get, the stronger that thyroid system gets, and you'll be well on your way to start, improving thyroid function, especially when we start incorporating these other podcasts where the stuff, the right lab testing, the right supplementation, the right stimulants. We'll talk about, when and where to go seek extra attention. So a lot of these things are really going to help your thyroid, but these are things you could start with tomorrow, and they're going to be very hard. I understand that. Especially if that morning is very, very sluggish. So I want to thank everyone for watching this, and stay tuned for our podcast number 2 on the thyroid, which is going to look at all the different tests, the easy test, the blood test, the different ratio. We're going to look at everything. It's very informative. I even have an article written about that, so we can even look at the numbers and kind of put things to it versus just a speaking format. And I look forward to seeing you next time.